Hello and welcome to this screencast on types and uses of feedback for skill acquisition. This is the second screencast we have done for types and uses of feedback. So far we've looked at classification of skill, stages of learning, practice types, types of guidance, and we've looked at two of the different types of feedback that we can have. By the end of today's screencast we're going to be able to know, or we're going to have information regarding all of the feedback types that you can see in front of you now: intrinsic, extrinsic, positive, negative, knowledge of performance, and knowledge of results. And we're going to be able to identify the advantages and disadvantages of using each type of feedback. Now, as I said last screencast, it's really important that you remember, or you are able to think about stages of learning when we're talking about feedback, because the type of feedback you as a coach are going to deliver to an athlete is going to be different depending on whether they're on the cognitive stage of learning or if they're at the autonomous stage of learning. You are going to give completely different feedback. You are going to praise a cognitive learner more than you'll praise an autonomous learner, where with an autonomous learner you're more likely to give negative feedback as opposed to positive. However, obviously you still will give positive feedback for them. If stages of learning is something that you can't remember or struggling with, please make sure you go over your notes on that, because it's really going to help when it comes to cementing feedback types that we have. So, starting with knowledge of performance, okay? This is all about the information about how well the movement was executed, or information about how well the technique was executed, i.e., was the movement correct? This can be given as extrinsic or intrinsic feedback. Extrinsic by the coach, for example, a coach explaining to a hockey player what they did well in a flick shot. Okay, so movements of their wrist was really good. That would be extrinsic feedback. It could also be classed as intrinsic, or be used intrinsically through kinesthetic awareness, especially if the performer is highly skilled and knows what a good performance feels like. Okay, so if you know what a good performance feels like, you know information about how well you executed the movement. If we're going to focus on the advantages of knowledge of performance to begin with, what this can be effective if, when for, is first of all for the cognitive learner. This is really good because it's going to tell them how to improve. If they get extrinsic feedback about what they performed well with regards to the movement executed, then this is going to give them confidence. This is really good for them. Okay, not only is it going to give them confidence with that, it also gives the coach positives to focus on. Okay, if the performance was good but the result was not good, i.e., you performed really well at the flick shot but you hit the post and the outcome, the result was not good, it allows the coach to focus on your technique, which is going to increase your confidence and increase your motivation as a cognitive stage learner. As well as this, you perform a movement, you execute the movement correctly. The coach gives you extrinsic feedback telling you you've done it correctly. As a cognitive learner, this is going to increase your motivation, your confidence, because the coach is telling you what you did well. And then also, because you know it went well, it's going to help you develop that kinesthetic awareness, that intrinsic feedback that you can give to yourself, like the autonomous learner can do, that will help overall performance. The negatives or disadvantages to knowledge of performance is, first of all, or effective if, when for, if feedback is inaccurate, it would not be effective, okay, because it is giving you false information about the movement of the skill. If you overload someone, a cognitive learner specifically, with knowledge of performance, this is going to demotivate them. So you have to gradually give them information about the knowledge of performance. Okay, so we can't overload them with that information because it's quite technical information. And then finally, as we know, kinesthetic awareness can take a long time to develop. Okay, so that is knowledge of performance. Now, if you think about it, you can have absolutely perfect technique and not get the right outcome, or you can have not so good technique and you can get an outcome, a result of winning or scoring a goal. So now we're going to go on to knowledge of results, okay, or knowledge of result. So if we're looking at knowledge of results, this is information about the outcome alone, and this is external feedback, i.e. you scored a goal or your pass reached a teammate. That's an example of knowledge of results as feedback. So the feedback here is, okay, my feedback now is I just scored a goal. The information is the outcome. So advantages to this are, or it's effective for cognitive and autonomous stage learner, because the performer needs to know they were successful in order to learn. If you score a goal, if your pass goes to your teammate, you need to know you're successful in your skill in order to learn. So it's good for both the cognitive and autonomous stage learner. It increases confidence and motivation, and knowledge of results will strengthen SR bonds. Okay, that stimulus response bond will be strengthened when you get a positive result. The disadvantages to knowledge of results are it's effective if, when, for, can demotivate. Okay, if you focus solely on results and not performance, it can demotivate people. If an outcome is unsuccessful, if the performer may feel the feedback is negative despite an improvement in performance, this is going to demotivate them. It can actually strengthen incorrect stimulus response bonds. If you do poor technique, but the ball goes in when you're striking at a football at goal and it goes in, your knowledge of result is it's gone in, it's successful, and that's going to strengthen the incorrect SR bond because your technique wasn't right. Or if you are a hockey player, footballer, and you have taken a shot from a really, really tight, acute angle and it's gone in, that is going to strengthen that SR bond, when that's potentially not the correct SR bond to strengthen, because the best result would have been to pass to a teammate who had more of a chance of scoring. Finally, can only be used once performance has been completed. It can't be used immediately. Knowledge of results, okay, it's a results game. It can only be used once performance has been completed, which is a disadvantage, or that's when it's not effective. Okay, so please make sure you've got key questions on the performances with regards to effectiveness, advantages and disadvantages. When is it effective, when is it not effective? On knowledge of performance and knowledge of results, as well as the examples and the descriptions of them both. Thank you, and I'll see you in lesson.